every person should have a fair chance at life, and nobody should be nobody should have to deal with being put down just because of what they look like.
Everybody gets the equal respect from everybody. There's no reason why anybody should put anybody else down.
No one should be discriminated because of their beliefs or anything.
It really doesn't matter who you are, you should just be given respect.
Everyone deserves dignity and respect because no one should be judged and everyone's made equal.
I think you should treat everybody as you want to be treated yourself.
Everybody's created equal, everyone's equal.
No matter who you are, no matter if you're rich or you're poor, you're black or you're white, we should all deserve the same respect. We shouldn't be treated like one of us is lower than the other.
No matter what your religion, ethnicity, or any of that, no matter what it is, we're all human and we're all underneath the same God.
It doesn't really matter if you're black, white, Hispanic, no matter what, we're all just friends.
Do nice things for poor people and homeless people that need them.
Act right and not fight, and just do the right thing and listen to what your heart says and what God says.
I think it's harder and more challenging to stop what's going on and to stick up for the person or to stick up for yourself than to just join in.
Get a group of kids to start a show about how bullying is wrong or how justice could be served in different ways.
Treat everyone fairly. That's what I think that people of this generation should do.
Even if you just say something, if somebody makes a comment about a particular person or a particular race, ethnicity, you could just say, I really don't appreciate that. It's not much, but then they know, and just that little will build up.
To work together, try to solve our differences, show more equality, stop trying to be so spiteful to each other, and work together, try to clean up the community.
According to feedingamerica.org, in 2009, 43.6 million people were living in poverty in the United States.
And in 2010, 925 million people went hungry worldwide.
The website water.org reports that 1 in 8 people in the world lacks access to safe water. It just doesn't seem fair.
Why can't there be more justice and equality in the world?
And is there anything we can do to help fight the injustice we witness and hear about?
That's what we'll be talking about today. Justice for All, the fight for righteousness. Hi everyone, I'm Abe.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is Real Faith TV. The teens on the streets said they felt all people deserve the same amount of respect and dignity.
We'll hear from them again a little later in the show.
But first, let's meet our spotlight guest, Mike Laskey, who is the program coordinator at the Center for Faith Justice.
The Center for Faith Justice's motto is based on the letter from St. James, chapter 2, where he states that
faith without works is dead.
They are located in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and run Justice Works camps for young people.
Next, Mike tells us what our faith teaches us about justice.
And that everyone deserves respect and has equal amount of dignity, because that is the way God made us.
Justice absolutely is concerned with basic human needs. Everyone needs to live. So food, water, shelter, clothing, access to health care, access to employment, access to education. All those things I think we so often take for granted. I know I take for granted, growing up in the New Jersey suburb. There are people around the world who don't have access to those things. And I don't believe that's the way God wants the world to be. When you think about if God was kind of sitting in heaven looking at the world and thinking, the way I want the world to be is that some will have food and others will not have food, and some will have education and others will not. I don't think that's the God we believe in. What we say is an all-loving God and a just God, a compassionate God. We hear that right from the beginning of Genesis, that God created man and woman in his own image and likeness, and how powerful that is. That's not a conditional thing. It's not, well, I'm created in God's image, but someone else isn't. And there's nothing that we can do to kind of lose that dignity. But so often in the world you see that where you are born really determines how you live. And that, to me, just doesn't make any sense. I remember as a student in high school, going on a service week to Camden, New Jersey, only about an hour from where I lived. And this was, at the time, was the most dangerous city in the United States. And they brought high school students from Camden, and we spent time with them. I just remember being so blown away, because here were students who were in some ways so much like me, but because they had been born maybe half an hour from where I was born, their lives were completely different. And that really didn't sit well with me. Why is it that, depending on where you live and what your background is and who your parents were, so often determines how we'll end up doing in life and the opportunities that we'll have? And again, I think that's something that makes God very upset, and something I think we're called to correct as his followers here on earth.
The Catholic Church has a whole series of teachings dedicated to social justice.
These teachings are based on and modeled after the life of Christ.
Let's meet our studio guests and find out what the 7 aspects of Catholic social justice teaching are.
With us today are Caitlin, Flo, Ariana, Justin, Annie, and Allie.
I know one of the aspects of Catholic social teaching is life and dignity of the human person, which deals with the principle that all human life is sacred at all stages of life.
Another aspect is the call to family, community, and participation. The Catholic mission is not a solo job. We're called to come together and work together for the common good of others and their welfare.
Another aspect is rights and responsibilities, which means that everyone has the same rights as everyone else, but we have the responsibility to make sure that everyone can get the same rights.
Another is the option for the poor and vulnerable, which means taking actions in our daily lives to support people who are less fortunate than us.
Another one is the dignity of work and the rights of workers, which is all about how workers need to serve their community and not the other way around, and how we all have a right to fair wages and a decent workplace.
Another teaching of the Catholic Church is solidarity, which implies that no matter what group you're part of, race, ethnicity, creed, we are all deserving of justice and peace.
And the last aspect is care for God's creation. That's pretty self-explanatory. Respect everything that God made. Respect nature, like trees. Try to take care of the earth by recycling or whatever.
So we see that the Church is very concerned with the quality of life for humanity.
The challenge to fight for even one of these concerns can be overwhelming.
But it can seem like a losing battle.
Next, we asked the teens on the street where they felt that we were losing the fight for justice in the world.
We're losing the fight for justice through television. It just creates a bad example for younger kids.
The soldiers who died and that church who came and protested at the soldiers' funeral, that was messed up.
When a parent, will feel like it's cool if their kid goes out and drinks at a young age, and parents not being parents.
Sometimes people are racist or they don't give a fair chance to people because they judge them.
When people don't care about other people and they think it's a joke when people are with disability.
My cousin had a disability and she's just as smart as everyone else. People just stare at her and laugh at her, and I don't think it's right.
Women are still treated differently in certain situations, and I think that's never going to go away. In the workforce, older people get treated differently than younger people because there's a stereotype that they're not as strong.
War, I guess. People are shooting at each other but not knowing the real reason why. You know what I mean? So it's unfair.
I feel like we're losing the fight for justice, majorly in the media. There are so many TV shows and music that people watch because their friends say to watch it.
The stand-up shows, they feel like everyone thinks that they're funny, but they're always making racial slurs.
Global warming, this could easily have been prevented if we did certain things like recycle and just take care of our environment.
One of the teens on the street had mentioned that parents are happy with their kids drinking. I've heard that so many times, that their parents not only allow it, but supply, the alcohol or even drugs. And I mean, it's when I think of that, it's what is the world coming to?
People are trying to get special tutors to come in and work with kids who have learning disabilities, and they're trying to have special schools and accommodations. But I know there's still criticisms, and so that's one area that we're winning, but we're still losing because people aren't being accepting of people with different disabilities.
I agree with you. I think another area like that is the area of abortion. More and more people are stepping up to defend life, and there's all these different organizations and on college campuses and in high schools. Unfortunately, there are still so many people that subscribe to that idea that it's not a life. You lose that mindset of really respecting that life for that amazing thing that it is.
And to people with disabilities, I know a lot of people choose abortion because they don't want to have a baby born with disabilities.
So much discrimination, ageism, sexism, racism. Everyone just keeps on thinking that they're better than the next person.
The school system, there's a lot of bullying, a big problem, and they're just getting away with it.
This generation of ours is a generation of justification. We justify all the partying and a lot of the immoralities of this generation by saying, oh, well, tomorrow isn't guaranteed, so let's party it up. With that fading morality, that's where all the justice is going, because without morality, you can't have justice. We need to take a look at ourselves and tune our moral compasses up a little bit more.
We also know that being so young, having a big future ahead of us, we can work towards restoring the justice.
There are many ways we can get involved in the fight for justice.
Next, Mike tells us how God calls each of us to reach out to the poor and vulnerable.
He also shares with us a few role models we can look to in this important area of social justice.
God has a special love for his children who are most in need. Not that he doesn't love me less because I have plenty of food. Of course he loves me just as much, but he has that special kind of care, and then calls us as a society to to also kind of mimic that, to find those people who are most forgotten, most outcast, and to go to them with love. What can we do to make this life better for you? I think that is what the Option for the Poor and Vulnerable is about, is thinking about those who are in need first. I think that's a radical call for us, to ask some questions that are difficult to ask and difficult to answer. Not just how can we feed those who are hungry, but why are they hungry? Why is it that so many are still in need? I think about someone like Oscar Romero, who was an archbishop in El Salvador in the 1970s. When he was there in this war-torn country of El Salvador, he saw people dying and people being taken away and just couldn't just watch that without standing up and saying something, and really spoke out and defended the rights of the poor, but also criticized those who wanted to turn toward violence, and really stood as a prophet for peace and for justice. In the United States, we have our own as well. Dorothy Day is a great figure who always inspires me. Again, a woman who was a big-time partier. She was kind of living this very crazy lifestyle. In that, found a commitment to the poor and those who were suffering, and then through that, heard the Christ call to Jesus to conversion and became Catholic and started the Catholic Worker Movement, which has a newspaper, which has houses of hospitality all over the country and all over the world. I think our daily lives are also important, and how we live each day. And there are decisions that we can make that help bring justice to the world, to find people who are suffering and not to turn away from their suffering, but just to meet them there and to spend time with them in their moment of suffering. So that can happen any day of the week in our families and our schools.
For me, when I think of a role model, I think of my mom. She's a lady who grew up in poverty in Africa, and she honestly appreciates everything anyone's done for her. And she even has plans when she retires to open up an orphanage or adopt a kid.
Definitely my grandmother on my mom's side, and she used to pray outside of abortion clinics. And one day a woman, was kind of looking at her, and the woman came over to her, and she ended up taking her home and helping her with the child, and she, changed her mind so that the woman had the baby, and it's just amazing.
For the pro-life cause, there's a New Jersey Congressman, Chris Smith, a really strong advocate, will fight to defend the cause, will get up in front of Congress, and I admire that he has so much courage to defend those beliefs.
My moderators for my social justice group, and they always came in bright-eyed with new ideas on how to help others and make a difference in their lives, and they always stressed to us that we have the power to change the world.
I always just think of my mom when someone asks me who I look up to, because she's always just taught me and my brother just to always think of everyone as equal. And she always tells us, always take good care of our stuff, because when we don't need it anymore, if we don't want it anymore, we can give it to someone that is less fortunate than us.
For me, I definitely think both my parents come to mind. Like my mother, she worked for immigration reform and legislation, things to that effect. Now she works for Catholic charities. My father is a member of a group called Fathers and Men United for a Better Trenton. They'll usually go around the city of Trenton and they'll find a street corner where someone was shot or murdered or something to that effect. And they'll pray at that street corner. People on the streets will see them praying, and a lot of them will actually join in, come in and hold hands with them, and they'll start praying with them, and it's actually kind of a powerful experience to see.
Similar to that, in Asbury Park, the Missionaries of Charity, which are Mother Teresa's order that she was in, they have a center where they can have kids come for after-school programs, and they'll be safe there. And every day they're going out, they're visiting people who don't leave their homes because they're scared. They're even visiting the gang members. They're visiting everyone and reaching out, and they're trying to bring solidarity in that community and a sense of family and to restore the justice that should be there.
The late Blessed Mother Teresa lived out the teachings of social justice.
The religious order she started, the Missionaries of Charity, has 4,000 nuns in 80 different countries.
About the people she helped, she said, "Each one of them is Jesus in disguise."
She also said, "Let us always meet each other with a smile, for the smile is the beginning of love."
Next, let's see if the teens on the street have taken a stand for justice in some way in their community.
Examples of me witnessing justice and righteousness was when I help out around the community and go to soup kitchens and help the less fortunate.
I volunteer at a soup kitchen on Saturdays.
It makes me feel good when I do stuff for other people.
I did work at a soup kitchen.
Donating I've done, and it's pretty nice to do.
I did work for a nursing home.
I used to be a Boy Scout. When we did that, you know what I mean, we repaired a lot of parks. We had done some soup kitchens.
Clean up the community and stuff.
I volunteer a lot at a women's shelter.
I've taught surfing to kids who had special needs as well.
I volunteered at a hospital for a summer.
Clean up the community by like recycling or picking trash that I see on the floor.
A friend of mine, he was picked on when he was in school and he didn't have much friends, so I just invited him to sit with me. No one should be alone.
My friend's Muslim, and a lot of people like make fun of him because he's different and he speaks different, and I've gotten in like a fight because some person was like messing with them and stuff like that.
I go to church every Sunday with my family, and I think that helps me keep in touch with God and just like keep reminding myself that everyone is the same.
Standing up for people. My friends have.
Standing up for people that really shouldn't be picked on.
I have a friend who actually went on a mission trip to Africa. She did a lot of work there, helped building a school for young children.
My friend was being bullied by some girl in my school, and we took stand, so we went to the principal's office, and he took care of it, and he's not going to let her graduate because I'm an 8th grader. So yeah, that's how the justice was served. And I guess I'll just teach her lesson.
Those are many different great examples of young people really transforming their communities.
Everything from a mission trip to Africa to inviting someone to sit with you at the lunch table.
These are all important ways to fight for justice.
Next, Mike tells us how a mission trip he took to Tijuana, Mexico changed his life forever.
You might say that this marked the beginning of his mission to fight injustice in the world.
After my senior year of high school, I got to go with members of my youth group to Tijuana, Mexico for a week of service. We worked there mixing concrete by hand, and it was neat because every day we would go out to a different site where they were preparing part of a school or something, and we would meet with members of the community from there, and we would work together. On our last day of work there, we got into our vans and drove like an hour and a half up into the mountains to a kind of a little makeshift village called El Nino. This community had been living in Tijuana, and then the rain had come, and wherever they lived got washed out. So they picked up what they had, and they walked up into the mountains to find higher ground, and that's where they settled. And their houses there were unlike anything I had ever seen, and made of scrap metal, whatever they could find, things from the side of the road, and living in a way I had never imagined any human could live. We were there to pour the concrete for the school, and so we were led into this kind of this small house for lunch, and they had prepared this enormous meal for us, giving out of what they had, which was not much. And we kind of crowded around the table, and one of the mothers, the women of the community, just kind of gave a blessing and was crying because she said how thankful she was and how good God was. And I was just so surprised by that, to see again someone who was in so much need to be so giving, so faith-filled, and so loving. When we meet those who are less fortunate, so they can really change our hearts. You come home from a trip like that, you can't be the same. Your life has changed forever. That's such an important thing, that when we serve others, we have the chance to be transformed into people who dedicate our lives to working for justice in some way or another.
Yeah, a way that I've fought for justice in my own life is I was always the kid in school that would usually stand up for the kids that were getting bullied. I got beat up a few times for trying to defend people when I was a kid. I never really cared. I made a lot of friends out of it though, so
At the beginning of 8th grade, I had run for student council president, and I had a platform that mostly said, I want to stop all bullying that's happened in the school. And I had told everyone, if anything happens, whether it's just someone being mean to you, or if it's someone pushing you around, or someone just ignoring you, I want you to come straight to me, because my 7th grade year was the worst year. I felt proud to carry that as my reputation, to be able to know that people can trust me and that I can bring justice to everyone.
For me, I did charity work last summer in a nursing home. I helped the elderly, and I would play games with them.
A group from my school and I went to a Rally for Life in Trenton, and it was a great experience to see so many other people with the same beliefs and morals that we had, and it really felt that we were making a difference in the lives of the unborn.
Our class in 7th and 8th grade went to the Right to Life March down in Washington, D.C. Before we went to the march, we went to the Holocaust Museum, and we saw all the things that under Hitler's rule what happened to all those people. Then we went to the Right to Life March, and we found the people who really do respect life and who will stand up for people.
My freshman year, I joined a community service club at my school, and we had a big baby shower for young girls that were pregnant who weren't accepted in their homes at the moment, and it was amazing. And we also, we had this party for the disabled kids in my school, and we had coloring books, and we played games, and we taught them things, and they were just so happy.
As Catholics and disciples of Jesus Christ, the work of justice is inextricably tied to our faith.
Our idea of justice for all comes directly from the teachings of Christ.
Let's find out if the teens on the street find a link between the fight for justice and their faith.
My faith pretty much teaches me that I should treat everybody exactly how I wanted to be treated.
Well, I'm Muslim, and my faith is it treats everybody with equal respect, and we don't look down on anybody else. Same here.
It says like basically everyone's the same under God's eye. We're all human beings.
I don't really practice anything like religiously, but everybody deserves some justice.
Always respect other people, no matter like their race or what they look like.
That everyone's the same and equal.
Everyone is the same no matter what. I should treat everybody the same. I am a Catholic, and that does teach you, just to be a good person in general.
Be nice to everyone and never judge anyone.
To be kind to people and to help other people and not to bring people down.
That I should be more understanding of other people's situations.
Help out the little guy.
Join a youth group, because that's where all this stuff happens.
It gives you some hope to go on, you know what I mean? That, you're not alone.
Always have open arms. Even if they aren't of your faith, all people need to be treated equally with respect. And, if someone comes to you and they need help, you should be there to help them.
My faith teaches me to do a lot for the less fortunate.
God would want you to stand up for one of his children because he stands up for you, for he loves you, so the least you can do is help his children in return. That's kind of contradictory to love God but then not help his children or other creations.
In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22, Jesus is asked what the greatest commandment is.
Jesus replies, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind."
This is the greatest and the first commandment.
The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Armed with this great love for God and our neighbor, we are ready to go out into the world and fight injustice.
Finally, Mike tells us that the first step to getting involved in some of the bigger issues of injustice is to find our passion.
He also tells us how prayer helps him to stay balanced and committed even when the work gets difficult.
So often, questions of justice lead us to places of power, to governments especially, who often set laws or policies that determine how people are living a lot of the time, or have some impact on that. In my parish, when I grew up, we had a letter writing campaign about food aid, so helping those who are hungry around the world and locally. And we had 300 parishioners who signed letters. And I took those letters down to Congress, and I was in a meeting with a congressional staff member, and I was kind of talking about the cause and why we believed in this, and she was listening, but not listening that carefully. But then I brought out the stack of 300 letters when I said, these are 300 people from the congressman's district back home who think it's an important thing. And immediately she perked up, because that's a lot of people who believe in that, and kind of started taking down all these notes. A few days later, the representative voted in favor of expanding food stamp aid, and we weren't sure if he was going to before. I mean, we don't know what impact we had, but it was still a powerful experience to be in a place where those decisions are made and having our voice be heard. Finding your own passion is such an important thing. The work for justice is difficult work. It's challenging work. We're losing the battle in a lot of places. There are so many places in the world where people are in need. But we come back to prayer that reminds us that we're doing this not because we want results and we're driven for success in a worldly sense, but because this is what God calls us to. We also have to trust that God will give us the tools we need to keep going, and God will give us grace and strength. Even though if I'm frustrated in a moment, I know that God is there and God is continuing to lead us, and that God's love is ultimately the most powerful thing there is. I think that can often help us in our work here stay balanced, stay committed, even when it can really be challenging.
I think a cause that I would like to get involved in is poverty in America. When we hear poverty, we think of countries like Africa and Haiti. I think I would like to help in my own country first, so I think that's something that I definitely want to get involved in.
I think that I'd like to get more involved in helping in nursing homes, and so I would really like to, be able to go and be there and show them that, like there are people who care about them.
For me, I'd love to get more involved in helping kids with disabilities or people with disabilities.
Something I want to get into and something I'm definitely interested in is like the quality of life for kids who grow up in inner cities and things to that effect. If I ever get out there and I'm ever successful, I'm definitely not going to forget the people I grew up with. I want to go back and try to change some of the cities that these kids grow up in. Because
things that I want to get more involved in, but I already am kind of involved in school. It's called our Respect Life Club, and it's about respecting life from conception to natural death. And one thing that I'm gonna get involved in over this summer is building homes down in Georgia for people who don't have them right now.
just being able to be blessed with so many things and knowing that I have a strong base and a strong family and something that I can always rely on, I just want to go and help everyone else who doesn't have all those things that I have.
In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, Jesus says, "Amen, I say to you, whatever you did for one of these least brothers of mine, you did for me."
This passage reminds us of our calling to help those in need of justice.
And that when we help others, we are helping Christ.
So if you haven't already gotten involved in working to fight injustice, start now.
You can start little and work your way up to bigger causes.
You may need to push yourself out of your comfort zone.
But it will truly be worth it.
So find your passion, find a cause, and help the fight for justice.
And watch how you make a difference in the world.
And how the world will make a difference in you.
What have you done against injustice in the world?
Share your story with us.
Contact us at realfaithtv.com.
Or share your thoughts with us on Twitter.
And we'll leave you today with this prayer.
Jesus, let me see you in each person I encounter.
Help me to recognize injustice in the world around me.
Give me the strength and courage to speak up and get involved, to help those who cannot speak up for themselves.
And inspire me to be a witness to your love to everyone I meet.
We pray all this in Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV. God bless.